Right. Let's talk about government. How it's supposed to work versus how it actually does. You might picture a grand hall, serious debates, and democracy's gears turning for the good of the nation, but that's a fantasy. The reality, one person can bring the entire government to a halt. Not an army, not a disaster. Just one determined individual saying, nope. This isn't fiction. It's a real procedural loophole. The filibuster. The filibuster lets a single person freeze the legislative process, holding up laws, budgets, and programs. It's like a toddler's tantrum in a supermarket, but the stakes are millions of lives. How is this possible? It's all buried in the complex world of parliamentary rules. These rules are the operating instructions for government, full of obscure clauses and traditions, and within them lies the power to grind everything to a halt. In politics, knowing the rules can matter more than having the best ideas. That's the unbelievable power of one person saying, nope. Throughout history, politicians have used the filibuster to block civil rights legislation, delay budget approvals, and even protest wars. Sometimes it's used to force compromise. Other times, it's just to make a point or stall for time. The consequences can be huge. Delayed paychecks for government workers, stalled social programs, and uncertainty for millions of people. So next time you hear about a government shutdown or a bill that just can't seem to pass, remember, sometimes all it takes is one person, one word, and a deep knowledge of the rules to stop everything in its tracks. So, what is a filibuster? It's a word you've probably heard tossed around whenever Congress seems stuck, but what does it actually mean? At its core, a filibuster is a tactic used by lawmakers to delay or block legislative action. It's a way for a minority, sometimes even a single senator, to prevent a bill or nomination from moving forward. Imagine you're at a family dinner, everyone wants to watch a movie, but Uncle Barry starts reading the phone book out loud, refusing to stop until everyone gives up. That's a filibuster in a nutshell, using time and persistence to block a decision. Historically, the filibuster was all about endurance. Senators had to physically stand and talk for hours, sometimes reading recipes, reciting Shakespeare, or even sharing personal stories, just to keep the debate going and stall a vote. Some of these speeches became legendary. In 1957, Senator Strom Thurmond spoke for over 24 hours straight to oppose the Civil Rights Act. It was a true test of stamina, sometimes lasting days and drawing national attention. But over time, the rules changed. Today, you don't even have to talk. The mere threat of a filibuster is often enough to bring everything to a halt. Now a single senator can simply announce their intention to filibuster, and that's enough to stop the process in its tracks. No marathon speech is required. This silent filibuster has transformed what was once a rare act of dramatic defiance into a routine tool of obstruction. It's become a normal part of the legislative process. No more marathon speeches, no more dramatic showdowns, just a simple threat, and the majority is forced to negotiate or back down. It's all the power of obstruction, with none of the effort. The filibuster has become a shortcut to gridlock. This shift has massive consequences. It means a small minority, or even a single determined senator, can block the will of the majority, even on issues with broad support. The filibuster is now less a dramatic stand and more a permanent roadblock. It's like putting up a road closed sign in the middle of democracy. It's a tool that can paralyze government, not just slow it down. Major legislation, judicial appointments, and even routine business can be held up indefinitely. The result? Gridlock becomes the norm, not the exception. Important issues can languish for months or even years without resolution. The filibuster's evolution has changed the game entirely. What started as a rare, dramatic gesture is now a routine part of the Senate's toolkit. And it's all thanks to a few lines in the Senate rulebook, lines that have given a single senator the power to freeze the entire government in its tracks. How does a single person manage to bring the entire machinery of government to a grinding halt? It might sound impossible, but it happens more often than you'd think. The secret lies in a concept called unanimous consent. In the US Senate and many other legislative bodies, routine business, like approving the minutes, scheduling votes, or moving to the next item, usually happens only if no one objects. This means that, to keep things moving quickly, everyone in the room has to agree, even if it's just to skip reading a bill aloud or to vote without debate. But if even one person says, "I object," the fast track slams shut. Suddenly, the chamber is forced to follow every single procedural step, no matter how time-consuming. What would have taken minutes can now drag on for days or even weeks. Every motion, every debate, every vote must be handled individually, often with hours of required discussion in between. This gives a single member enormous power. They can hijack the entire schedule, forcing the body to a standstill until their concerns are addressed, or until they simply get tired. The consequences can be massive. Budgets stall, agencies run out of money, and government services, from passport processing to food safety inspections, can grind to a halt. All of this can happen because one person uses a procedural rule, like the filibuster or a simple objection, to block progress. And it's not just about dramatic government shutdowns. These tactics are used all the time, often behind the scenes, to delay or derail legislation. For example, bills to fund childcare, support medical research, or confirm key government appointments can be held up for months, sometimes never making it to a vote at all. This single-person veto gives any member immense leverage. They can demand changes to a bill, force negotiations, or simply draw attention to their own priorities. Sometimes, this power is used to extract concessions, like adding pet projects to a bill or removing provisions they dislike. Other times, it's just about making a statement or getting media coverage. The result? A government that lurches from one crisis to the next, often unable to pass even the most basic legislation without a fight. All it takes is one nope to hold up the business of millions, leaving ordinary people waiting for solutions that may never come. Enter procedural warfare, an elaborate contest that unfolds not in the open, but in the shadows of the rulebook. Here, the fight isn't about the substance of policy, or even about what's best for the country. Instead, it's about who can outmaneuver the other using the very rules designed to keep order. The rulebook becomes a weapon. Every clause, every footnote, every obscure precedent is fair game. Politicians spend hours, sometimes days, searching for technicalities and loopholes that can be used to stall, block, or derail the process. They become experts in exploiting these gaps, sometimes holding up entire bills with a single objection, or forcing hours of pointless debate with a well-timed motion. The goal shifts from persuading colleagues to simply paralyzing the system. It's a legislative chess game where every move is calculated, and sometimes, the only winning move is to flip the board entirely. Take the filibuster for example. A single senator can talk for hours, reading from cookbooks or phone books, just to run out the clock and block a vote. Trust between parties evaporates, replaced by suspicion and constant strategizing. The assembly, meant to be a forum for debate and compromise, becomes a battlefield where every word and gesture is scrutinized for hidden intent. Instead of collaboration, suspicion rules the day. The chamber is filled with tension, not discussion. And while these procedural battles rage on, the public rarely sees the invisible war being waged behind closed doors. What they do see is the result: gridlock, inaction, and a government that seems unable to get anything done. The real work of government, solving problems, passing laws, serving the people, gets lost in a fog of procedural jargon and endless delays. And so, the absurdity of procedural warfare continues, with everyone paying the price. This isn't just political theater, it has real consequences that ripple far beyond the walls of Congress. When lawmakers can't agree, the effects are felt in every corner of the country. When government freezes, it's ordinary people who suffer, not politicians. Everyday services that millions rely on, like processing tax returns, renewing passports, or accessing public benefits, can grind to a halt. Programs supporting women and families, like shelters, childcare, and healthcare, are often first to be cut. For a single mother, a closed childcare center can mean missing work and losing income. For a family in crisis, a shuttered shelter can mean nowhere to turn. Women, especially women of color, are more likely to work in the public sector and face job loss during shutdowns. These jobs often provide stability and benefits that are hard to find elsewhere, so a shutdown can be devastating for entire households. Gridlock means economic instability for millions of families. Missed paychecks can lead to late rent, unpaid bills, and even eviction. Small businesses that depend on government contracts or foot traffic from public employees can be forced to close their doors. The most vulnerable are hit hardest when government breaks down. Seniors, low-income families, and people with disabilities may lose access to food assistance, housing support, or critical healthcare services. A procedural vote in the capital can mean a closed clinic or a canceled program in your town. The effects are immediate and tangible: lost services, lost jobs, and lost hope for those who need help the most. The collateral damage is real and deeply unfair. While political battles play out on the national stage, it's families, workers, and communities who pay the price. If the filibuster is so destructive, why does it still exist in the United States Senate? Why haven't lawmakers simply gotten rid of it, or at least reformed it to prevent abuse? Supporters of the filibuster argue that it protects the rights of the political minority, ensuring that the majority can't simply steamroll their agenda through without any input from the other side. They claim it forces compromise, encouraging senators to work together and find common ground. The idea is that the majority must negotiate with the minority, preventing wild policy swings every time control of the Senate changes hands. In theory, this should lead to more stable, carefully considered laws that reflect a broader consensus. Historically, the filibuster was even used by minority groups to slow down or block legislation they believed was unjust. For example, some point to its use during the civil rights era, though controversially, it was often used to block civil rights legislation as well. But in reality, the filibuster has evolved into a blunt tool for total paralysis. Instead of encouraging debate and compromise, it's now used routinely to block almost any significant legislation, regardless of its merits. What was originally meant to encourage extended debate and thoughtful discussion now often prevents debate from even starting. Important bills can be stalled indefinitely, sometimes without a single senator actually standing up to speak. The ideal of the filibuster, protecting minority voices and fostering compromise, is largely gone. What remains is a weapon that can freeze the entire government, leaving critical issues unresolved and the public frustrated. Procedural rules aren't just boring details, they shape real lives, especially for women. These rules determine which issues get addressed and which get ignored. Many crucial bills never even get a vote. They're killed by procedural roadblocks. For instance, bills on healthcare, childcare, and equal pay often get stalled. Understanding this shifts the blame from not enough votes to a broken system. It's not just about who supports a bill, but whether it even gets the chance to be debated. This knowledge is power. It lets you demand a fairer process, not just better policies. When you know the rules, you can advocate for changes that make the system more transparent and accountable. For women, who fought for a voice in politics, these rules are the new barriers. Just as women once fought for the right to vote, today they must fight for a legislative process that truly represents them. Today's struggle is about breaking invisible fences that block progress. These procedural hurdles can be as significant as any physical barrier. Paying attention to the rules is political self-defense. By understanding and challenging these rules, women can ensure their voices are heard and their issues are addressed. So, the next time you hear about a filibuster or a procedural vote, remember, it's not just politics, it's about your life, your rights, and your future. So what can you actually do when it feels like government is stuck and nothing is moving forward? Understanding the rules, like the filibuster, cloture, and committee procedures, is your secret weapon as a citizen. These aren't just technicalities, they shape what gets debated, what gets blocked, and what laws actually pass. When you know how the process works, you can target your advocacy, demanding that candidates and elected officials address procedural reform, not just the policies you care about. For example, ask your representatives where they stand on filibuster reform, or whether they support making legislative sessions more transparent. When leaders blame the rules for inaction, remember, rules are made, changed, and enforced by people. Throughout history, major reforms, like the end of the Senate's talking filibuster or the adoption of new voting procedures, happened because people demanded change. You can join groups pushing for reform, whether it's ending the filibuster, making committee votes public, or modernizing legislative technology. Support candidates who want to fix the system, not just those who promise new policies. Ask them directly, what will you do to make government work better? Educate others. Remind your friends and family that gridlock isn't just about partisanship or personality clashes. Often, it's a deliberate strategy enabled by outdated or poorly designed rules that can be changed. When you see nothing happening, it's not always because people disagree. It's sometimes because the system is set up to make action difficult. Political literacy is like knowing how to fix your car. When you understand what's under the hood, you can demand the right repair, not just complain when it breaks down. You don't have to be an expert, but knowing the basics gives you power. Don't accept, "It's just not working" as an answer. Always ask why, and push for real solutions. The more you know about how the sausage gets unmade, the more you can help fix what's broken. Here's the bottom line. Government is a high-stakes board game, where every move can change the course of millions of lives. Like any game, it comes with a rule book, hundreds of pages of procedures, traditions, and technicalities, but most of us never read the rules. Instead, we trust the players, our elected officials, to play fair and act in our best interests. But the truth is, some players know the rulebook inside and out, and they're not afraid to exploit loopholes, like the filibuster, a tactic that lets a single senator stall or even block legislation by refusing to yield the floor. Sometimes, this means hours, or even days, of speeches about anything from policy to recipes, all to delay a vote. The consequences of these maneuvers are real. When the game stalls, so does progress on issues that matter: jobs, health, and the future of our communities. When lawmakers can't agree, or when a single rule is used to block action, it's everyday people who pay the price. Whether it's delayed healthcare, missed job opportunities, or stalled infrastructure projects. Understanding the rules is the first step to changing them. Procedural reform isn't boring, or just for policy wonks. It's fundamental to making government work for everyone. Imagine a game where the rules are fair, transparent, and designed to solve problems, not create gridlock. Right now, too often, our government is paralyzed by its own rules, unable to act on urgent issues because of outdated procedures and partisan tactics. So what can you do? Start by learning about the filibuster, how it works, why it exists, and how it's used. Ask your representatives about unanimous consent, another rule that can speed up or slow down the process. Demand better from your leaders. The person who writes or rewrites the rules wins the game. That's why it's so important for citizens to pay attention, ask questions, and push for reforms that make government more responsive and effective. It's time we took the pen back, because when we understand the rules, we have the power to change the game for everyone.